and the half Kaddish. Magnified and sanctified may his great name be in the world he created by his will. May he establish his kingdom in your lifetime and in your days, and in the lifetime of all the house of Israel, swiftly and soon, to say Amen. Amen. May his great name be blessed forever and all time. Blessed and praised, glorified and exalted, raised and honored, uplifted and allowed to be the name of the Holy One. Blessed be he, beyond any blessing, song, praise, and consolation, utter in the world, and say Amen. May be seated. We'll finish up on page 586. All right, so last week the final plagues came upon Egypt. Israel leaves Egypt with a mixed company. They don't have time to prepare food for their bread to rise, and they travel 7 days into the desert. And they come to the sea, the Reed Sea. Sometimes we call it the Red Sea, but the correct translation is the Reed Sea, which is interesting because it goes back to Moses' mother putting him into a reed basket, right? There's a correlation here. Into a reed basket, putting him into the river, right? And he's drawn out, right? Now the people of Israel are at the Reed Sea, and Pharaoh and his leaders, who's going to make our breakfast? Who's going to cook our food? Who's going to make our bricks? Why did we let them go for? They've already forgotten what happened because they refused to let them go, right?
Good to know that Pharaoh likes kosher food.
Pharaoh liked kosher food, yeah. Maybe. So.
Where am I going to get my bagel?
Yeah, we're going to get his bagel. So he mocks, yeah. Lox, bagels and lox, exactly, yes. So now he's got his heart. Now it says here that God put it in his heart caused him to harden his heart and to go after Israel. Now, in that sense, what that is it doesn't mean that God hardened his heart. It was already in Pharaoh's heart to do it, but God allowed him to do it. Okay. Remember, God talks about that with people, he allows them to have a spirit of rebelliousness, but where their minds aren't, huh? They're sugars, yeah. They get a crazy mind. They don't think straight. Like, they're not thinking logically. They're not thinking common, overthinking, but they're common sense, right? Defiance, common sense, all these different things, right? Of a bad mind, a sick mind, anyways.
Are you talking about the Yetzer Hara?
Well, yeah, the Yetzer Hara, but that even more. It doesn't seem common. It doesn't make sense to him. It doesn't understand. He doesn't learn from the mistakes that they've made. Sometimes God has to, like he told Rav Shaul, sometimes you have to turn somebody over to the adversary in order for them to come to the truth, right?
And I think we talked about this before. I think this is why there's that. If you know in Pharaoh that the dagesh, or the little dot in the pay, every time he repents, it goes away, but every time he turns back, it comes back.
Pharaoh, yeah. So Pharaoh is now gathering his army. He's going to go after them, right? And so we see that. He gathers his army, his chariots, his best chariots, not just his best chariots. He also gathers all the other chariots and his footmen and everything. And they go out after Israel. And it's not necessarily to return them to slavery. It says they are going to get all the spoils. Basically, when they left, God made them, made Israel so uh, uh, what do you call it? This, huh? No. To the people that they gave them gold and said whatever they wanted. Predisposed. Predisposed. Yeah, there we go. And they got, they took, basically, it says God said they took all the riches from Egypt. So now Egypt has nothing, right? And Israel has it all, basically. And so Pharaoh and his leaders and the men, they're going not necessarily to get Israel back as slaves, but to get their wealth back, to get their booty, their all of their. Not that booty, sorry.
He didn't realize when he kicked all the Jews out, he also kicked out his accountants.
Yeah, yeah. When he let Israel go, he kicked out his accountants. That's right. Spoils, anyways. Trying to see if it's here.
Egypt gave away their wealth anyway.
Yeah, basically, Egypt gave away their wealth, and Pharaoh wanted it back. Didn't really care that Israel was gone. He just wanted the wealth. They were like, why did we give them all of our riches? Now we have nothing. And so they go after him, and Israel's wandering in the desert. It says that God has them wander. Migdol means tower, and Egypt had forward bases, to watch over the land and stuff, to see who was coming in, to be able to send a messenger back, say, hey, we got an enemy coming, so they could muster their forces, right? And they're keeping an eye on Israel, and they send messages back to Pharaoh. Hey, they're just wandering out here. I don't think they know where they're going, And God, right off the bat, says he's not going to take them by the king's highway, by the highway that goes through the land of the Philistine, right? Which would be Gaza. Yeah, which is Gaza. Yeah. Anyways, because it would be closer, and he says because if they see war, they might turn back. Well, that is a reason for sure that they may not be ready for war. But the thing is that God is the one still fighting for them, and God still has a plan here. Always has a plan all the time to give glory through the Egyptians to him, that the world will know that he is God. Remember, Egypt is a picture of the world, okay? And we see that this is the last battle that takes place before Israel is free, right? It's the last battle that takes place prophetically, the Battle of Armageddon, the last battle between good and evil. Yes.
You know that the Philistines or Greek team are actually Syrian Greeks.
Well, they're Greeks. Yeah, they're Midas. Yeah.
Yes, Minoans.
Minoans, there we are. Minoans, yes. Which has finally been proved. Archaeologists have finally proven that they were Minoans. Anyways, so they're preparing for the last battle, and of course, we just went through the plagues, right? It's gone through the plagues, and the earth is getting ready to go through the plagues again. God has blessed his people and kept them separate from a lot of this stuff. They've seen the stuff going on, and not only that, but a mixed company. Gentiles have taken note of it and have joined themselves to Israel and have gone with Israel. Right? We see that, and that's what we see too in the future here too. Is that the Gentiles realize that God is with Israel, like it says in Zechariah 8:23. In those days, 10 men from the nations, a congregation of nations, will say to Israel, say to a Jewish man, which is Yeshua, the Messiah, they will take hold of the corner of his garment and say, we want to go with you, for we have heard that God is with you, right? And so that's what these people have done. It's just a first picture of this. And they're ready to, they're there, ready to get glory for God. And God is ready to fight for them again. Now, Egypt comes up against them. And immediately the people start panicking. People start panicking. Um, Moses, why'd you lead us out of Egypt to die in the desert because there wasn't enough graves in Egypt? Uh, that's one group. Another group was we should vote and take a vote and whether we should go back to Egypt or not. Maybe we should do that. Uh, the others were, we remember in Egypt where we sat by the fire with all the food, meat pots and ate all we wanted. And I mean, it's a continuation. We know that comes a little bit later, but still, the idea is that the people are complaining. Where's their faith? Where's their, and Yeshua, that's what we see in the Besorah reading today, is that Rav Shau or Kepha is bid to go out and walk on the water too, right? But the things, he sees the waves and the wind, and pretty soon his faith doubts and begins to sink, right? And that's the way we are a lot of times too, is that things are going great and our faith is great at that time, right? But as soon as something comes, we get a flat tire or something like that, and pretty soon we're like, God, why? We blame God, right? Famous rabbi, I can't remember his name offhand. Don't think I can't remember his name offhand, but he said, he's in the Talmud. He says every time something bad happens, we should, instead of look at the bad part of it, look at it as an opportunity to give God praise. What is it God's trying to teach us?
Said it was a good year.
Said it was a good year, yeah. So
Should have gotten Firestone.
should have gotten Firestone, yes. A good year instead of Firestone instead of good year. Anyways, so the people are, again, grumbling. They've just witnessed a great deliverance, a great redemption, and they're going to see an even better one soon. But they've gone through this, seen the stuff that God has already done to the Egyptians. And they even believed Moses. They believed in God and they believed in Moses, but their faith lacks. And the reason is because our foundation isn't built. We don't have a firm foundation because we haven't studied. We've only, watched others maybe, or we haven't sought God on our own, which is probably the most important thing we need to do, is seek God on our own. We shouldn't rely on other people, right? We should have our own prayers. We should read our own stuff. I do my morning prayers, etc. I do my readings and stuff in the morning, my studies in the morning. And sometimes if I have time, I'll sit down, with work and stuff. Sometimes it can be busy, but I'll sit down and read some more, study some more, get some other stuff going, pray. Well, I'm in prayer constantly all day, to be honest with you. I don't think I quit. But not saying I'm a great person when it comes to that. I have my lacking times too. We all do. There are times when we just lack in faith sometimes, but God is faithful and just that he will be with us. He doesn't give up on us, right? He didn't give up on Moses. He didn't give up on the children of Israel. Even during this time of complaining and stuff, as a human being, you want to complain? Okay, good. You go complain over there. You just get out of here. Don't even talk to me no more, right? No, that's not the way God is. God does his own thing, and usually it's not judgment, it's discipline. See, there's a difference between punishment and discipline. A lot of people don't realize that. There's two different words, two different meanings. Punishment usually comes after a long while, after you've had an opportunity to be disciplined, and you still haven't learned the lesson.
That's it. Discipline is teaching.
Yeah, discipline is teach. That's where you get the word disciple. Discipline. God is disciplining Israel, teaching them. Rely on me. We've got the governments today, man-made governments are trying to do the same thing. Like in Daniel's day when they were jealous of him. Don't let them pray to God. Let them come to you for everything, right? To Nebuchadnezzar or not Darius, I think it was. And anyways, that's what we have today too, and we've got to watch out for that. When we're relying on the government or other people for our sustenance and stuff, and we're not relying on God, that becomes our God. Okay? And we have to be careful of that because it's so easy to do. there's a story that says that that if you teach, if you give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. But if you teach a man to fish, he'll eat for the rest of his life. Why? Because he can take care of it himself, right? But people become dependent on you, and it's like there was a rabbi in his family. He would gift people challah for Shabbat. His wife would make some challah, and he'd go out and gift it to people. And he would did this for a while. Well, then he changed and started giving it to somebody else. Well, then the people over here that were getting it are like, what? Hey, you didn't give me any challah today for Friday. What am I supposed to do now? You know, because they became reliant on it, right? Learn to make the challah yourself. Don't rely on somebody else. Because things can change, right? And that's what we need to do. And here's Israel at the sea. They know what God has done, but they're still relying on the physical aspect of things. They're not looking spiritually as to what's taking place. They're not privy to what the big picture is. They're only privy, just like we are, just to a small portion of it. So when things happen and we don't understand, we kind of get, go scratch our head and go, God, what's going on? What's going on? We don't see it all the time, because we don't see the big picture. He does. That's why we have to let him be God. Let him be the one we rely on, because he has everything ready for us, set up for us. And so Egypt comes. And the people of Israel, they whine and complain again. Here we go. And I really love what Moses says, okay? Stop being fearful. Remain steady, and you will see how Adonai is going to save you. He will do it today. Quit whining, quit complaining. You've already seen his deliverance. You think he can't do this little bit here? Why are you worrying about it? And that's the same thing with us. We have all these little things that come upon us. There's always somebody worse off than us. Just remember that. That's why we need to be praying for each other and realize that sure, we might have it bad in our own eyes, but in somebody else's, we have it good. Somebody better, yeah. You think you're the best, there's always somebody better, exactly. So, and that's what we need. It's just funny that the poor people of the world, they laugh at America's poor people. Why? Because America's poor people are actually filthy rich. I mean, most poor people in the world, they can't afford a car, they can't afford a cell phone, they can't afford clothing, for Pete's sake. And poor people are buying $150 pair of shoes, right? And they can't even afford food, but yet they're out buying junk food and stuff, right? Yes.
It's like a bullshit thing in my eyes. There's a poor guy that got his cat a sweater before he got himself a jacket. There's a picture of the cat sitting there, fluffy.
Yep. Yeah. Our pets are taken better care of than our poor people, to be honest with you. But to be honest with you, Americans are pathetic. Our nation was a nation built on faith and everything. And since the 60s and onward, our nation has become pathetic. Our nation has become a nation of whiners, complainers. Laziness abounds in our country, all because we allowed our government to try and take care of us with the welfare system and stuff. The welfare system must be there to help support people who need to get back on their feet, not to become a lifelong pursuit, a lifelong career. And for the disabled, yes, for the disabled and stuff, to help people out. But we've taken advantage of it. We seek free stuff from the government, right? Because we've made our government our God. Even during the Obama administration, where Obama and the Democrats made it illegal for soup kitchens to function unless they got a license from the federal government, they had to shut down. The one here in Bemidji had to shut down because they couldn't get a federal license to feed the poor. that it should come from a government-sanctioned business or whatever, right? Well, thank God the Supreme Court said, no, you can't do that. And, that's what the government wants. The government wants you to pray to them, to seek them for all your needs. That's the communism way. That's what the communists have done. That's what we look at Russia. Karl Marx, that's what his whole thing was, is get away from God, bring in atheism, evolution, and rely on government. And what happens? We see what happens. Corruption. Overreach. I mean, just, yes. Micromanaging in every little aspect.
One of the things I did find interesting was the numbers 12 and 70 showed up. There were 12 springs and 70 streams.
Mm-hmm.
12 tribes and 70 people.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah.
We should watch Groucho Marx instead.
Groucho Marx instead. Yes. Karl was not one of Marx brothers, just so you know. He was a Marx, but I'm sure he was far away.
Maybe a distant cousin that disowned him.
Yeah. But anybody who is trying to say that the best, I'm sorry, that's an atheist system. I'm not saying capitalism is the best either. It's not. It has its issues, but it's far better than any of those other two. Because mostly, it allows people to become wealthy or to stay poor. You choose what you want to do, And it depends on how hard you want to work or how much you don't want to work. And the best part, though, I think about it, is the market, how the market is actually supposed to run. If we allowed, capitalism is okay to a degree, but the market system is a much better system because then people are actually paid what they're worth, whereas capitalism is all about the companies getting money, okay? Free market system pays people what they're worth. Higher wages generally with free market system. Whereas when capitalism takes over, we see the issues with capitalism where the companies grow and pretty soon their focus is only money. They don't care about the employees. They don't care about the people that work for them. And that's a problem too, I'm not saying free market is all that great either, because markets can fall, markets can rise. It just depends. But that's why we need to learn to rely on God, right? Even the land of,
Free market costs a lot. It's not exactly free.
No. But that's even the land of Israel. The land of Israel has really nothing in it. You have to really bring in a lot of your own stuff. It's a land flowing with milk and honey. But if God isn't blessing the land, there's no water. There's no harvesting because he hasn't brought the water. There's a lot of things there. You have to work hard. You have to work the land. Otherwise, it's a desert. And one of the things that we see today that God prophesied about Israel is that when Israel returned to the land, that they would make the deserts bloom. Israel figured out a way how to make the deserts bloom. Israel figured out how to take salty seawater and turn it into fresh water, desalination, which California does too, with Israeli technology to take seawater and turn it into fresh water, right? Although they need many more because they got so many people there and stuff. And there was a mistake for them to quit taking water from the Colorado River. Big mistake. Because that replenishes from the snow and the stuff in the mountains, record snowfall. Yeah, anyways. Because we see that here, even in Minnesota with the Mississippi here. It starts out small, gets bigger. But with the snowfall and everything we get during the spring, the waters rise as it goes further south, right?
That's why they should also let know that snow just rolls into the sea. And they really should be in California and places like that.
They should be able to catch the snow water, the snow turn it into water. Yeah, they could do that too. Exactly. So God has blessed Israel, and here's Israel at the sea now, and here comes Pharaoh. What?
Israel also drained the swamps.
Yes, they drained the swamps. Exactly. Malaria was a big problem in the land of Israel for a long time. even into the modern age. And when Israel went in there, Israel drained the swamps, got rid of all that stuff, and they grew trees. Matter of fact, we have that coming up soon here too, where the New Year for trees is coming. Right, that's coming up. That's kind of a special seder as we bless God for the trees. Right, then pretty much the fruit trees, and that's what we're looking for. So, but anyway, so they're fearful, and Moses says, and this is what I like. Stop being so fearful. Quit. What is your problem, right? And you will see how Adonai is going to save you. He will do it today. Today you have seen the Egyptians, but you will never see them again. Adonai will do battle for you. Just calm yourselves down, right? And even God says to Moses, why are you crying to me? Tell the people of Israel to go forward. Now there's a midrash about Nachshon, who is the brother of Aaron's wife, who has faith enough that God says to go forward, and so he goes forward into the sea, and nothing's happening. At first, he gets up to his nose, but he continues forward, and then the sea splits, and the ground is dry and stuff, and that is Nachshon, that is Aaron's wife's brother, man of faith. We hear about him later again too, but that was the thing, is that there were people, Joshua, man of faith. He was the disciple of Moses. Okay, Hur and Aaron were disciples of Moses. Okay, so we see this taking place here, where they're teaching. We're disciples of Moses and then of Joshua and so forth, right? So it's a continuation of the thing. But anyways, so the cloud, the pillar of cloud goes from before Israel, because it says it never left Israel, but it went to the back to keep the Egyptians at bay. And during the night, God caused the sea to split and the ground to become dry, a wind. And I'm sorry to say, they didn't go through some swamp and that the gravity caused the water to go away for a while. I don't know whoever came up with that idea. God says it was walled up on the right and on their left. Walled up. How are you going to wall up a swamp water? I mean, you could, but God could do anything. But he says the Sea of Reeds, and that's not from between Egypt and the Sinai Peninsula. That's between Sinai Peninsula and the Arab Peninsula. That's where it was at. And we know where the crossing is because we've found ancient Egyptian chariot wheels and other things like that have that the sea creatures have. What do they call them? All kinds of swords, right? So Israel goes through the water, and this is the thing we need to understand, is that Israel going through the water, it's a baptism. It's an immersion. Just like Yeshua said that we are to do, be immersed in his name, right? Many rabbis, famous rabbis, even back then, if you became a disciple of that rabbi, you would have immersion. Immersion was for many different things. The women had immersions for when they were done with their monthly cycle, and other things. But also we did immersions for before a Sabbath or before a festival, or after we had touched something unclean and we sat through the purification process, or when we had spiritual insight on something new and we were moving in a new direction or affirming our faith in God. And that's what immersion is. And Israel going through that is like an immersion. They went through the sea, completely the sea above them, so they're completely covered in essence by the water. And their old self, which was slavery, is gone, because when they reach the other side, they're now free, right? The same thing with us. When we are immersed, before that, we are our old self still. But when we come up, we are renewed, we are refreshed, we are redeemed in that sense from the old ways that we were. And that's why immersion, that's why, I'm sorry to say, baby baptism and stuff like that is not biblical, sorry to say. It's not there. It doesn't do anything. It's made tradition. People have to be able to understand what and why they're being baptized for or immersed for.
That's
You know.
more to do with pagan rituals.
It probably does have nothing to do with, has to do with pagan rituals. I'm sure it does. But that's why a person needs to understand why we our bat mitzvah person, they will begin doing their usually a little bit before they get to learn what immersion is and do it and stuff, but then they become responsible for it after their bar bat mitzvah, right? Because they're responsible now. They understand, they're taught, they know why they do it for, right? And that's what a person who is baptized or immersed needs to know what and why. Even the apostles decreed that before a person could be baptized, they had to understand what they're getting themselves into. They had to learn the Torah and the scriptures and the teachings of Yeshua before they could be baptized. Okay? That's basically what they had set in precedence. Immersed into the faith of Yeshua, that Yeshua is not just our Messiah, but he's our rabbi. And many rabbis did the same thing. Their disciples were immersed into their being their disciples. There's nothing new. It's just a continuation of what God had already set up. Okay? And so Israel goes through. And of course, the Egyptians, the world follows. It's the final battle before redemption, before the final redemption. A picture of that, right? And God does battle for Israel. The Egyptians come in there and they're not on dry ground. What happened to the ground? Israel is walking across on dry ground, but they're not. It says that the ground was turned to mud. Their wheels were breaking, getting stuck. They had a difficult time getting through. I think that at first it was dry grounds just so they could get in there far enough so they couldn't turn back. Because they do realize that with all this other stuff going on, that God's fighting for them. We need to get out of here, right? It's too late. You made your choice. Now you have to sink with the stone. And that's what happens. And God has Moses look over and put his staff up, and the waters come back and cover them. And it includes Pharaoh. Pharaoh was also drowned. It's not like these other movies where he survives. He doesn't survive. And the reason is because the inheritance had to be broken. Okay? Had to be broken. There was nobody left. Pharaoh's firstborn was killed the night of the firstborn. Pharaoh was left. That's it. For God to have Israel legitimately, there could be no error. No error. Not error, but heir to them. No inheritance could pass on.
So it does say that although he died, he was given time to repent. And then in some legends, he repented, and that's why if you read, where is it that this it says never, or what is it? Egypt shall be my people, and Lebanon shall. Well, you might. It's in the writings. There should be a highway between Egypt.
Yeah, between Lebanon and Egypt. Yeah. So, the final battle that we see in the end is Armageddon. The people are being people of Israel and the Gentiles who've taken hold of Israel are being surrounded by the armies of the world. It says that God caused Pharaoh to go up against Israel. It also says that God caused the nations to go up against Israel in this last day in the Battle of Armageddon, right? We see that. It's the same thing. It's already in their heart. We already see it in the United Nations that their desire is, even though they allowed Israel to become a nation, at that time there was good people that seen the writing and the reason that needed to happen. And then now we've got all these people who are corrupt, who do not see that, who are being blinded by the adversary. And they're supposed to be. It's their choice. It's not that God has made them. Everybody has a choice. We have a choice to follow God or not to follow God. And there's repercussions for both. As God said, blessing or curse, life or death. Choose good or evil. You choose. We choose it. Right? And God doesn't send people to hell, just so you know. People send themselves because they make the wrong choice. It's like that movie, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, and the guy chooses the wrong glass, right? And he dies, and the Crusader says, he chose poorly. Definitely, right? Anyways, and that's what happens. So if anybody's at fault, it's you. When Yeshua came, when he died, sure, it was all part of it that went into there. The Sadducees had him killed, but it was the Romans who did it. So who put him to death? We did. Whether we're Jewish or non-Jewish, thing is, he came to die in our place to show the way to go, the way to walk, what needed to be done. Just as we read the binding of Isaac, we see the binding of Yeshua. It's the same thing. Abraham was willing to give up his son. God was willing to give up his son. If Abraham wasn't, I don't think it would have happened. He probably had to choose somebody else. But Abraham had faith. Abraham knew that, right? We see that. And so Israel comes through the other side, blessed, redeemed, no longer slaves, but now free. That's what we do with Passover too, right? We recline to the right, and we pour the other person to the right their wine, right? When we do our 4 cups, right? To show that we are free now, no longer slaves, right? And that's how we should be when it comes to sin too. Is that through Yeshua, through the way to walk, Yeshua showed us that we can also be free from sin. Sin, the Lashon Hara, the evil spirit that likes to tell us, tempt us, whatever. We don't have to listen to it. We can listen to the Harab Tov, the good spirit, right? The good spirit's always on our right. On our left is the Lashon Hara, not Lashon Hara, the Hara. Yeah, if the devil offers you cake, don't eat it. But it's up to us, and we've got a battle that we fight all the time, right? It has to do with sin. So the children of Israel came out of Egypt. They wandered in the desert 7 or whatever days it was, 7 days it says. And Pharaoh was told that they were wandering in the desert. They were lost, and that he could go up and get his riches back. And that's what he wanted. He wanted his riches back. And he tried to. And God fought for Israel, the final battle before the redemption, final redemption from Egypt. And we see that in the days to come here now. Israel is a nation again. And as it says in the prayer, the first flowering of our redemption. The redemption is nigh.
It's Isaiah 19.
Isaiah 19.
23 through 25. It says, in that day there shall be a highway from Egypt to Assyria. The Assyrians shall join with the Egyptians, and the Egyptians with the Assyrians. And then the Egyptians together with the Assyrians shall serve God. In that day Israel shall be a third partner with Egypt and Assyria as a blessing on the earth.
Mm-hmm.
For the God of hosts will bless them, saying, Blessed be my people Egypt, my handiwork Assyria, and my very Jerusalem.
Yeah. That has to do with the world. No, it has to, in essence, when we see that, those who take hold of Israel, join Israel. Yep. So in the final battle we have coming soon, as Israel is a nation now. They're still fighting battles. But there is a time coming when the nations are going to be lured, as it says, to go up against Israel. And the reason for it is because Israel is God's people. God hasn't forsaken, he hasn't abandoned them. All their promises are for Israel and to the nations who take hold of Israel as a partner. Okay? That's what we're looking at these days. So the end of days, the last battle, we see the last battle. What happens? God fights for Israel. Israel goes into the final redemption in that sense. The time is coming when we will go enter the final redemption. When the world comes together to fight against Israel, then God will fight against the world. Of course, he will win, and the final redemption then takes place. Right? And we go into the land. We go into the promised land. So that's what we have to look forward to. But we have to choose God. We have to choose to walk in his ways. We need to choose to learn his ways. As it says, we want to learn your ways. Teach us, O God. We want to go up to the house of Jacob, and that he will teach us his ways. Kind of befuddle sometimes those verses, but I know what I'm saying, so hopefully you do too. But that's the whole point, is that it's us. We have to do our part. God is willing to meet us halfway. That's what he did with Yeshua. He met us halfway. Because our righteousness can never be considered good. Our kadosh is always lacking, right? God's kadosh is always full. But now through Yeshua, our kadosh can be made whole, right? But it's only through him. It's only through God that we can do these things, and we have to realize that. Our righteousness is, like Paul said, filthy rags. Our righteousness. But because of Yeshua, through Yeshua to God, our holiness can be full. But we have to make the choice. Our choice is that we can choose God or we can reject God. We can choose his ways or we can reject his ways. God's not saying we have to be perfect at it, but we have to have a circumcised heart. Moses talks about it. Rav Shaul talks about it. Circumcised heart. The physical circumcision is a picture of the spiritual circumcision. Physical circumcision doesn't do much except remind us of the covenant, but circumcised heart is what changes us. Through Yeshua, through God, he uses that to change us for the good, for the better, for the desires. We keep God's commandments not because we have to. We keep them because we love God. That's what pleases him, right? It's what pleases our God, and we want to do that. And that's what Israel's going to learn as we continue through this, to the Exodus and stuff, right? I do believe next week we hear the 10 utterances. I know they call it 10 commandments, but it's the 10 utterances, and we see how those things apply, not just then, but even today. And they're not the only commandments, just so people know. They're utterances to give to Israel as a starting point, as a relationship between us and him and us and everybody else. That's what it's about. So that's coming up next week. So, all right, bow your heads for the priestly blessing. Our God and God of our fathers, bless us with the threefold blessing in the Torah written by the hand of Moses, your servant, and pronounced by Aharon and his sons, the priests, your holy people, as it is said. May the Lord bless you and protect you, if you will. May the Lord make his face shine on you and be gracious to you, if you will. May the Lord turn his face towards you and grant you peace. Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chunecha. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'seim lecha shalom. Have a great week this week. Have a blessed rest of Shabbat. Join us for our meal afterwards. Be praying for our fellowship as we need the growth and stuff and to be effective witnesses here in the Bemidji area and beyond. I know there's a lot of people that are interested, but I think that the adversary kind of does stuff to keep people away from coming, new people and stuff. We do get new people, but we just need to be praying about that because this is important, especially for these last days, that people understand the Torah and the stuff going on with Israel and these last days, because they're pictures of it. They're pictures of Yeshua coming the first time, the second time, of the people being redeemed and the redemption and stuff like that. We do see that. So join us Tuesday nights for Torah Club, torahclub.org. You can find a club at 7 o'clock. Wednesday night study, we're doing Tent of David. We're doing the last few chapters of that. And then in March, we will begin the five solae, why Messianic Judaism, why it doesn't work with Messianic Judaism. So far, it's been really good, by Jacob Franzak. Tent of David by Boaz Michael. Very good. Also want to try and start for some of the new people Ha Yesod. Looking at maybe doing it on Saturday afternoons after service and stuff, after eat. It's about an hour, but it's 10 lessons, and we watch a DVD for that. Really excellent basics. And then there's also Ha Yesod about Sabbath and Ha Yesod on the festivals. So there's 30 lessons that can be done. Very good. Not that we have to do them right after the other, but get a basic understanding of everything that we do here. Why God hasn't done away with Judaism. Why when Yeshua came, he didn't come to create a new religion called Christianity. He came to use what God already established. Okay? And for Gentiles to be able to join, to be a part of that. Not to become Jews, to be as they are, Gentiles, from the nations, but to join Israel in that respect. Okay? And have a circumcised heart. That's what we all need. So, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Also, think about moving to Bemidji. It's a beautiful country, beautiful place. It's beautiful country around Bemidji. There are lots of lakes, lots of fishing, lots of wildlife and stuff like that, but great people here too. So, and help grow our congregation here to be effective in the area and around the area and wherever else God leads us to go. So, thank you. Shalom.